Welcome to the Raw Food Health Empowerment Show. I recently had the pleasure of sitting down with Liz MacDowell of Meat Free Keto. We talked about why she went from vegan to a ketogenic diet, the pitfalls she's experienced, the positive benefits of doing keto, and some things to look out for if you're interested in doing a ketogenic diet the healthy way. She has some valuable tips and valuable resources, so take a listen. So it's so nice to officially meet you. Thank you for having this interview with me. I am so keto curious right now because everyone is talking about it. And
Right.
yeah, and from what I've read, some people are getting great benefits from it, even within the vegan community. People have been vegan for a long time, and for some reason or another decided to try keto. And that's what I
Right.
kind of want to ask you is like, what even inspired you to get here? But just to kind of backtrack a little bit, I found you because I joined some vegan keto groups on
Oh,
Facebook,
cool.
and you are one of their go-to resources for, yeah, vegan
That
keto.
makes me so happy.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so niche. So
It really is.
yeah, so maybe just kind of like talk about yourself, all of what you're doing, and how you got started in veganism and blogging in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Liz from meatfreeketo.com. Basically I'm a vegan low carber or ketoer, I guess you could say too. And, I've been vegetarian actually since I was 12 years old and then only vegan for like 5 years now. But you know how it is. It's like you go vegetarian and you're all idealistic, and then you realize being vegetarian doesn't really eliminate a lot of the problems that you were hoping to. At least with like animal cruelty, that's kind of the thing I'm in veganism for. So
Yeah.
I finally made the leap and educated myself and went vegan. And at the time, I was really into high carb veganism, which I know works for so many people. It's so good for so many people. And I wish I were one of those people because I love fruit and I loved eating that way, but it really just, it wasn't working for me. So I did I was in school for nutrition at the time. So I kind of did some exploring and thought, well, there's a whole bunch of people doing this whole low carb keto thing. I wonder if I could apply that to a vegan diet. And so I started experimenting, and then I started blogging to kind of just keep track of it really because there wasn't anything out there that I found, and I wanted to remember what I was doing, and I figured if one other person read it, it would help them maybe.
Yeah.
So then it just kept going on for like 5 years, and here we are.
So what nutrition school were you going to?
So I actually did a distance program through Bowman College, and they're
Okay.
located in Pembroke, California. It's a great
Okay.
program. I highly recommend it to anyone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you got your bachelor's in nutrition, or was
So
it?
I actually went back to school for nutrition.
Okay.
I got my bachelor's is in art history. And then I went back to school. And so it's a certificate. It's not like a bachelor's, but
Okay.
it's a 2-year intensive program.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So
Yeah.
you got into veganism basically because you're an animal rights activist. Is that fair to say?
I think
That's part of
that's a
your
little
activism.
extreme. I feel like I'm not cool enough to actually be an activist, but yeah, I'm an animal lover and a bleeding heart, and I want to be an activist, and I want to be able to be there, but we're baby steps. We're baby steps to the
Baby
activist.
steps. Okay.
But yeah, absolutely. It was for the animals.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So then you said that it wasn't working for you like it's working for other people. So what were you looking for the vegan diet to do for you?
Oh, sure. Well, so I followed a lot of YouTubers at the time, and I think the trend years ago and even now still to a certain degree is like the 80-10-10 diet where you're very high carb.
Right.
And that works for those people. It definitely does. You see it. They're very healthy looking. They're very healthy sounding. They
Mm-hmm.
seem very happy. But for me, I was cold all the time. I was gaining weight, which was weird because I didn't think I was eating that much. I was hungry all the time. I was exhausted, really cranky, like super cranky towards my roommates. And I kind of figured I love being vegan, but I'm not sure the way I'm being vegan is particularly helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, it's like, it's when you're tired all the time and you're cold all the time. And it was the middle of summer too. So it wasn't winter. I felt like I shouldn't be shivering in July, and maybe I was doing something wrong that wasn't working.
I see. So have you learned anything from that point? Do you feel like if you were to do veganism 80-10-10 again, that you would do it differently, or?
I think I probably would do it differently. I was very into fruit at the time. Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead was really trendy. That documentary, Smoothies Right, with all my friends. So we were all doing juice cleanses and we were smashing in bananas, so to speak, and just trying to get as much fruit in as possible. And I think that if I were to try an 80-10-10 approach again, I would definitely go more towards cooked starches. And I think High Carb Hannah actually on YouTube does something more like that, and I would probably attempt that approach.
Okay. So then you were feeling cold, right? And you didn't have like energy and stuff like that, right? You didn't feel like you were in your best health.
Right.
So at that time, I'm just trying to think back to like when you were even thinking about possibly doing keto. Did you ever think, well, maybe I should go back to vegetarianism?
I did a little. Of course, you always have those thoughts. And like my boyfriend at the time ate dairy and eggs. And in fact, there's recipes on my blog that have dairy and eggs for things I made for him. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, maybe I should give that a try. My doctor told me to include animal products again because she thought that would be helpful. But I kind of, when you just find veganism and you're so passionate and enthusiastic, and I really wanted to make it work.
Yeah. Okay. And so then what even had keto come into your mind as a possibility?
So it was while I was in school and we were kind of studying, as silly as this sounds, fad diets. So I was looking into paleo and keto. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking, well, firstly, keto is disgusting if you just look at conventional keto, bacon, burgers, tons of cheese.
Yeah.
They advocate no vegetables, but I was looking, or not no, but minimal. I was looking at these results that people were getting and thinking, oh, if they're actually stabilizing their blood level, their like blood sugar levels, and their cholesterol is not abysmal like I anticipated it would be. Right. Yeah, right? Like if their blood markers are all improving and they're becoming healthier doing this, what would happen if you did this with actual good foods for you and actual positive nutrition? It was more of like a what if this crazy thing could happen? Let's just see. Cause I figured, you know how it is. You're trying to find a diet that works for you. So you experiment a lot. Yeah, I thought this would just be another little experiment, and wouldn't it be cool if this could work?
Yeah. It's such a mind shift to go from 80-10-10 and all of that, even though this sounds so negative, like indoctrination, right?
No, I totally understand.
and then keto, which is like it for most people, which makes sense. It's like the exact opposite, right?
Right.
You're flipping the whole thing on its head. High fat, not as much protein, right?
Right.
So they kind of maybe are in agreement with the protein situation.
Right.
Not having excessive amounts of that, but the carbs. So it's like the carb and fat, and like high carbers, they're like anti-fat.
Right. It's right? So funny.
Yeah. So so you wanted to try this, you're like, okay, let me see if this could work. And then you're like, of course I'm going to try and do it vegan because this is my value system right now.
Exactly.
Okay. And then how was the beginning for you?
It wasn't hard because fortunately at the time I worked at a natural food store. So I had access to a lot of the trashy vegan food, like high fat vegan foods. But aren't the best for you, but they're vegan and they fit the macro profile at the time. So I'd be putting like vegan cream cheese on like flax crackers and eating just noodles with tons of like shirataki noodles with tons of oil and like peanut butter to make my own peanut sauce and everything, which I still do sometimes because it's really tasty.
And but you liked it? You liked all the foods?
Weirdly, I did. I've always been more of a salt person, so the fact that I could eat all these savory foods and I didn't miss sugar that much because I could just eat spoonfuls of peanut butter at a whim. And of course, over the years, I've refined that, and I realized at a certain point in time that you have to add in tons of vegetables in order to really to feel good and I think to obtain a balanced micronutrient profile. But
right. Yeah. Which is important. A lot of these diets, they're very much focused on the macros.
Right.
And not a lot is spoken of with the micros, which science doesn't even know all of the nutrients that are in fruits and vegetables. We just know that we need them.
Exactly. So go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's another reason I think it's just important to not focus on counting carbs and vegetables and just like eat the spinach without caring about it, because there's so much going on in that spinach that's more than just vitamin A or like vitamin K. There's a whole world that we don't even understand that's clearly doing stuff for our bodies. So we should just stop worrying about the carbs in the spinach and eat the spinach.
Yeah. Have faith in the infinite wisdom of fruits and vegetables.
Exactly.
So in the beginning, you were loving the food because it's just satiating, it's high fat, and it's junk food. We all love junk food, right? So, did you experience any benefits at all? Or how long did it take for you to experience some benefits once you started keto?
So I've had IBS pretty much my entire life. And within a week that had normalized, which I know sounds crazy, but it was weirdly true. Like, I didn't realize that being regular was a real thing. I thought that was more of one of those TV commercials try to sell you Metamucil by saying like, oh, you can be regular too. And I was like, all right, whatever. But, after starting keto, I don't know whether something in my gut flora changed. Maybe it was the less sugar kind of switched everything. I honestly don't know, but it just, that normalized. And, I lost weight like most people do, but that wasn't really even my goal at the time. So I was very happy, and I know it was mostly just water weight, but still, I think that that's good to get rid of that inflammation.
Yeah.
And then a weird thing was that I had joint pain, which sounds crazy because I was about 25 at the time and pretty young for joint pain. But, that disappeared. I didn't realize that it was one of those things that you didn't realize you had until it was gone. And I woke up and I wasn't stiff everywhere every day, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. So within a week, and at that point, you're basically eating like what? What was a typical day of meals for you?
At that time, I wasn't at all thinking about meals. I was doing that thing where you track all your food and you just eat and then track it and then say like, oh, I have X amount of carbs left. So basically, I would like impulse eat almonds and fresh coconut, like pretty much in macadamia nuts for most of my day. And then by the end of the day, I would get home and do something like the noodles with the spinach and hot sauce in it. And that was, it's so unhealthy compared to how I eat now. And it's so weird because it wasn't even structured meals. It was just me eating like nuts and peanut butter,
and nuts. Interesting. So basically you omitted the carbs, or they were just less. Were you following like the macros of keto or?
Yeah. So when I first started, very much the dogma, and it is dogma in the community, was 20 grams of carbs or less, or you're not on a ketogenic diet. It was like you had to be under 20 grams. Now that seems insane to me, but I was very determined to follow things just to see how this experiment would go. So I would try to keep it to 20 grams, sometimes going up to 25 if I was feeling crazy.
Okay, so you were still having it. It was just a lot less, dramatically less.
Right, and it was pretty much all from the spinach and almonds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you experience any negative effects since you've been on, not just from the beginning, but like since you started this whole keto journey?
Yeah, of course. One was definitely financial at the beginning. It is expensive to eat that many nuts. And that was definitely a motivator to try and eat a little bit healthier.
Yeah.
And then there are definitely times where I feel tired and run down and I have carb cravings rather, and I'll eat carbs for a weekend and refuel my body and go with it. But those are the things that you have to feel your body out and you have to say, this is what works for me. This is what doesn't. This is what I want right now. So this is what we're doing.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're not like strict with yourself. You're very flexible.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is good. I think that's a very healthy space to be in. Because like for me personally, what I love about, like you saw the last episode I did on paleo, intermittent fasting, and keto, and doing all that vegan, is that all of them have something great to add to the conversation, and we don't have to be dogmatic about it. We're all different, and so like our levels should adjust accordingly to our lifestyle, our needs at the time. Because even like you now, like your early 20s, I'm sure what you needed maybe was more carbs, and then you didn't need so many carbs. You know, it's like we change as we age and as our hormones change and all that. Yeah, so that's great. So for vegans who are interested in keto, what would you recommend that they do, since how long have you been keto vegan anyway?
So I'm not in ketosis all the time, but I've been doing this for about 5 years.
Okay.
Which is a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Is that a cat?
It is a cat.
So fluffy.
He is. He actually came from LA, where you are. He was my sister-in-law's cat, so maybe he sensed that California was all right.
Yes, sending California sun your way.
Much appreciated now. But, so I guess for vegans who are interested, I would say don't do what I did. I just dove right into it. And I think that was probably not the best way, because you end up spending a lot of money, and I didn't have a plan, and I wasn't eating the best foods. I would recommend kind of starting off slow and taking a look at what you eat every day and saying, okay, maybe if you have like a fruit smoothie for breakfast every day, you find something that's low carb to replace that with, or even something simpler, like if you're used to eating a lot of curries with rice, just replace the rice with cauliflower rice for a while. And then as you make all these little changes throughout the week, eventually you'll be at a place where you're pretty low carb, and then you can see how you feel doing it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's brilliant. And like you had a situation where you didn't feel good in your body. You said, let me experiment and try this because I naturally, intuitively feel called to try this. Right. And you experimented. And within the first week, even though it wasn't perfect, you saw a benefit, which is a win. You know, I think that's awesome because you learn a lot even through the process. And you have the benefits. So that's awesome. I love your tips. That's great.
Oh, thank you.
So right now, what do your keto macros look like? Like, are you doing 60% fat? When you're in ketosis, what does it look like?
Yeah. So I normally don't track, but every once in a while I've been trying to track lately, especially since you contacted me, so I could actually get a handle on like, okay, I have an answer for her.
Yeah.
I do tend to eat around 60% fat. And then my carbs are actually a little bit on the higher end. Like I'll eat I'm lucky though, I can get away with 40 to 50 grams of net carbs and still be in ketosis.
Okay.
So
can you explain net carbs for people? Because that's pretty, like confusing. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, not everyone uses them. So that's even more confusing. Yeah. Net carbs are basically, it's, the total carbs you eat in a day, and then you just subtract the number of grams of fiber. So let's say I ate 80 grams of carbs and like 46 grams of fiber, which is actually not unusual. Then I would have 34 grams of net carbs. And then those net carbs count because your body actually utilizes those. Mm-hmm. So as you know, like fiber isn't digested by us. It's either passed through or it's used by our gut bacteria, or like soluble fiber. So this takes that out of the equation and says, okay, that sugar is not, or those carbs aren't impacting our blood sugar levels. So we're just going to use the carbs that are starches and, like sugars that actually impact blood sugar levels. And get your insulin going.
So if you're not eating packaged food, how are you tracking this information?
So I'm at this point in my life, I just eyeball everything, which isn't particularly helpful. But when I'm making recipes, for instance, I just weigh out ingredients and then I use Chronometer, which pulls information from the USDA database.
Yes. And anyone familiar with the 80-10-10 lifestyle, they most likely know about Chronometer.
Yep.
Which is very, very detailed. And I don't know what your opinion is on this, but I kind of feel like if someone has, they're too strict with themselves when it comes to food, weighing and being strict with measuring probably isn't a good route. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, 100%, especially if you have any disordered eating in your past, or, which I mean, a lot of, especially women do, and men as well. We all have these, no one has any idea how to eat until you figure it out, which is kind of sad when we think about it. But
yeah.
I think
like far removed from nature that natural instinct in us, I think, has been like broken.
It's true. It's crazy. And then I think for some people, weighing is super helpful in the beginning because it gives you that idea of like, oh, that's what a serving of lettuce is, or that's what a serving of nuts is. I had no idea. But then I think if you do it too much and if you keep doing it, you develop these neuroses almost where you feel the need to constantly weigh everything. And if it's not perfect and you're not exactly in your plan, like everything's ruined. And
it's so funny because I talk about because I've been following an 80-10-10 lifestyle for the majority. I've been vegan for 9 years and have been doing 80-10-10 for the majority of that. Because right off the bat, when I learned about veganism and the benefits and why it's the natural way, like the normal diet or the natural diet for human beings, I was in the Bay Area, California, and there was Cafe Gratitude there. I knew about like the raw food movement and all that kind of stuff. Right. So all the stuff that I was hearing and learning, and I was learning it from the health perspective. It was always cardiovascular health, diabetes. So fat was always a concern. And if you're doing raw, then you want to make sure you eat enough, right? That was like the big thing. Make sure you're eating enough. So from then, I have been cognizant of calorie consumption. And even now when I talk about it, some of my family members are like, why are you so concerned about calories? Why so? And it's not even a concern. It's just like, I know, I'm aware. So I have an idea of like, to make sure I'm eating enough, or am I eating too much? Like, that's really where I'm at now, where this whole keto thing where I started looking is like, well, I don't feel as great as I did in the beginning. I do feel kind of tired. I feel like it's possible that I'm eating too many bananas, which I loved at one point. But now it's like, I'm kind of tired of that. And I think my body's tired of that and is looking for something different. But to people who are not like, I don't know, heavily into nutrition, what I'm trying to explain is that there are levels, right? There are the people with the neuroses, but then there's also awareness. So you kind of have an idea of what you're putting in and just making sure that you're eating enough and you're getting the nutrition that you need. And then other people who are just like, you know what, I want to intuitive eat. I don't want to worry about calories. I don't want to, which is fine if you're not feeling any problems,
Right. And there's also, like, I like to do a combination of both those things. Most of the time, well, like half the time I just eat and if I feel fine, I keep doing what I'm doing. But then I also like to check in and say, what am I eating? As you know, if you're really into nutrition, you kind of have a little bit of a mental idea. And I don't know about you, but for me, there's always a little, almost like a ticker in the back of my head, like, oh, okay, good. You got your greens in today. You had about that many seeds, so you're probably around this many calories. So there's always almost like a subconscious tracker in the back of my head.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I think it's good to check in with Chronometer and say, all right, what am I getting for like protein? What am I getting for my B vitamins? Am I getting any omega-3 fatty acids? Like, where is this coming from? What am I doing?
Right,
and I think it's good to strike a healthy balance between those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So today, when you're in ketosis, first of all, okay, we didn't talk about how you're tracking ketosis. How do you know when you're in that?
So at the beginning when I first started, I got those little sticks that you pee on, which is gross and weird, but
you need that, right? If you plan
right,
to do
exactly.
this.
And they're better for telling you, I mean, obviously something you're excreting isn't in that moment. It's from whenever you were processing all that stuff. So it's not minute to minute, but if you keep eating the same way, you can kind of discern that, oh, okay, I am in ketosis based on the fact that this is how I was eating this morning, and you stick that I'm in ketosis from then. So it's not perfect, but it works. A lot of people do the blood measures, but seriously, it's like $2.50 per one of those strips, and I do not have the cash for that. So I think that's a little intense. Like,
and you have to prick your finger, huh? Like a
yeah,
diabetic. Ooh,
exactly.
that hurts.
I know, and
it hurts.
I know. So I'm not about that. So I don't do that. But after a while, I started to kind of feel and understand, okay, like when I have, your body just feels different when you're in ketosis, and you can, okay, again, kind of gross, but like when you pee, it looks a little different, and, because you're excreting ketones now, and
how does it look different? I like these types of details.
Yeah, no, it's so crazy.
Is it like neon color, or is it more clear, or?
So for me, it's a little more clear because I tend to drink a lot of fluid when I'm on like a ketogenic diet, but also
it's naturally thirsty.
Yeah. So what happens is when your body is releasing all this glycogen, so you release all the glycogen stores in your muscles, and when you store glycogen, you also store water. It's like how it's packaged in your body. And so you shed a lot of water once you shed all these glycogen stores. But you also just end up drinking a lot of water, essentially. So you are more thirsty. You tend to, I don't actually know whether you metabolize things faster. Some people say your metabolism speeds up. I'm not actually sure that that's true. I think that might just be a bro sciencey thing. Mm-hmm. But I know that you definitely end up drinking way more water, and to compensate for that too, you should increase your mineral intake and your salt intake just to keep your electrolytes from going out of whack. But yeah, so I'm thirstier than normal, and he's like a little, it sounds so weird. It's less like warm yellow and almost like a cooler yellow. And I know that's a really bizarre distinction to pay attention to, but I mean, you should know, I guess, what things are coming out of you to be able to tell when you're healthy. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I love when people talk about that stuff, because the thing is, most people, when they get sick, like, first of all, they wait till they get sick, right? They don't listen to the body cues. They're not observing things. And then they run to the doctor for like chronic issues. When, in my humble opinion, of course, I'm not a doctor, but I feel like the doctor is more for acute issues, and chronic issues are really dietary and lifestyle that we can take care of ourselves,
I completely agree.
And so if we pay attention to what's coming out of us, these are early signs that either something is not right or we're on the right path and we don't need to do anything. At least be observant, because even if you're going to go to the doctor is going to ask you these questions. And if you're not paying attention, the doctor can't help you, because the doctor doesn't know what's going on in your body. Only you know what's happening in your body. So it's important to observe all of that stuff going on. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
See, I love talking about it with other nutrition-centered people, because you get it. I don't have to be embarrassed in front of you to be like, well, I look at my pee pretty regularly. No, you just understand that exactly that's what you should do.
And we make it okay for other people to do it, because like the general thing is, oh, it's just gross or whatever. But when we have a safe space and we can talk about that, and we talk about it openly, more and more people feel confident, comfortable to talk about it. So.
Absolutely. I love that. I am loving this conversation so much.
Me too. So your meals today, when you're in ketosis, what do they look like?
So since it's winter, I've been eating a lot of like storage vegetables. So a lot of it is cabbage based, which it's what we've got in season right now. So I usually I do intermittent fasting. So I tend not to eat any breakfast. Yeah, I saw you're into the fasting on your video.
Yeah. It's experimentation season for me, I guess.
Yeah, right? But it's kind of cool, isn't it? I don't know. Again, that's one of those things that I'm not dogmatic about. And if I'm not feeling it one day, I will eat breakfast if I really want it. But for the most part, I tend to skip breakfast and then just like head right into the lunch phase.
Yeah,
But,
which this episode is not about intermittent fasting, but I do want to just put a pin in there and just ask you quickly, like, have you always been a breakfast person?
So not really, actually. I think I remember being upset that my mom was force feeding me breakfast when I was a kid.
See,
how about you?
I've always been a breakfast person. Like, breakfast is like the most important meal of the day for me. I look forward to breakfast from like the night prior. And I think, I'm sure it has something to do with my childhood. I don't remember ever being forced like to eat breakfast, but I've always loved breakfast. So like with intermittent fasting, I struggle in the morning. It's like a mental thing, but I learned it's a lot easier for me to delay my eating in the morning to start like midday. Whether it be 12 or 2, it doesn't really matter as long as I stay hydrated, because I tried without water and it sucked.
Oh, I can't imagine that.
It sucked bad. But if I move my window up to not eat after 3 or after 5, it's hard. It is hard. God, that's like way more. And I think I don't know if you're familiar with Susan Pierce Thompson of Bright Line Eating.
Oh no.
If you've read her book, it's a very interesting book. She's had a history of addictions, and then like drug addictions. And then she got over the drug addictions, but ended up on a food addiction, and, got obese from that. Then figured out if she just has these bright lines where she's weighing food, and that's her whole system. She's having people weigh food. So you're having this much protein, this much carbs, whatever, and no snacking. Then you can keep in line with your addictions. If you're addiction prone, like she has like a measurement, people are more prone to addictions, people are less prone to addictions. So if you're more addiction prone, you stay within these bright lines and you don't veer from that, and you're good. You can keep your weight down and all that kind of stuff. But in her book, what I like that she talks about is like the psychology of eating, where we're making all these decisions throughout the day that at a certain time, like towards the evening, you have decision fatigue, which is why most people, when they're trying to eat clean, dinner ends up being pizza or whatever, because you're like tired. You don't want to think about it. And how it relates to what I was talking about is basically when I move my fasting window up so I can enjoy my breakfast. But, in the afternoon, after that 8-hour period is up, because I'm doing a 16-8, I come home and there's food there, or like my husband wants to eat, and like there's just everyone's eating, because that's normal that other people are eating. So I have to be around food at a time when I would normally be eating with everyone. So it's difficult. So from this perspective, because I don't feel like I've ever had difficulty being vegan or transitioning to vegan, like not really much, because once I decided, it was like, but with this, I get now what people are saying with trying to be vegan and being in a family and an environment where other people are not vegan, and it's difficult. Now I understand with intermittent fasting. So that's like another side benefit of just being more empathetic and understanding, as a health coach to these people's experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Complete tangent, but
no, it's a good tangent. And it's true. I had the same thing when I tried eating breakfast, because there was a period of time where I would just wake up starving every morning. And I was like, oh, this is my body telling me it's breakfast time. And so when I was trying to do intermittent fasting and eating it, like starting my window at 7 in the morning, as you know, that goes to 3, and then at 3 you have to stop eating. That's crazy. I'd get home, same thing. It was like my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, would be eating all this food, and I'm just sitting there looking at it forlornly. You can't do that. It's awful.
It's a lot of willpower to just look and not eat. And I know some people who could do that, but
they're amazing.
I'm not one of those people.
Me
I find it very difficult. But okay, so your meals today.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we talked about it.
So we kind of did, and then like tangents abound.
Yeah.
So far it's 2:30 for me right now, and around noontime I actually had a bowl of coconut yogurt with peanut butter and blueberries, which that's what I wanted and that's what I ate. And so I have in my like crock pot right now, I've got like a cabbage stew cooking. So that'll be my dinner or whatever my next meal is.
And cabbage doesn't have a lot of calories, so
it doesn't, no. So I tend to put like I put mushrooms, which also don't have a lot of calories, but I'll probably put tofu in this just because sometimes you need like a good quick protein that's easy.
So where's your fat coming from? Are you having fat at every meal or just for the day you have your fat requirement?
So I pretty much have fat at every meal, and for dinner, I have the habit of putting hemp seeds on literally everything, just everything. And so, I know it's not the most appetizing thing, but they're delicious, and I buy them in bulk. So I just, so I'll probably sprinkle a bunch of hemp seeds. Yeah, exactly. Money to buy in bulk. It's true. It saves so much.
Yeah.
But, I'll make a stew and I'll season it however. And I do cook with a little bit of oil, though I try to avoid using oil versus whole plant foods. So like I would prefer to use olives instead of olive oil, but I put a little olive oil so I don't like ruin my pan. Basically. Yeah, exactly. So, it'll be a little bit of oil, but kind of a negligible amount. And then, I'll just drown it in hemp seeds. And I put olives on everything because I really like them. And I'll eat an avocado for a snack here and there. And
just plain.
I like to put salt and pepper on it, but yeah, pretty much. Sometimes I'll put salsa, like I'll chop up a bunch of tomatoes and some pepper and stick it all in there.
Interesting. So that type of eating, like, were there any hints before? Did you eat those types of meals prior to doing keto, or do you find that you had to kind of force yourself to eat that way?
I had to kind of force it. Before I was keto and before my whole high carb 80-10-10 juice fasting stints, all of those stints, I was definitely doing like junk food veganism. My roommates and I would just, you buy like the boxed vegan mac and cheese, or we have like vegan pizza, or just like fake meat all the time, and just, just all of the Oreos are vegan type junk food, but it wasn't Oreos because we worked at the health food store. It was like Numinos, but
because they were.
Exactly. It was like all that kind of crap. So I had to totally retrain myself to actually eat real food, and now I can't imagine doing it any other way.
Yeah. Eating, I've seen people who like naturally would snack on a whole avocado. I don't think I personally have gotten there. So that's like where my disconnect is right now. Is like, where would I even find 60% fat to fill, my, like, where?
Right. No, totally.
Yeah. So your staple foods, like what are they? So hemp seeds.
Yep. Hemp seeds is my number one staple food. And flaxseed too, because I think it's important to balance your omegas. And so I tend to, if I'm making a smoothie, for instance, it'll always have flaxseed in it. And it's just, it's another thing that I tend to put in like yogurt or on top of my food. If it's not hemp seeds, it's flax seeds. Another money saving tip, buy them whole and then grind them yourself, because one, for some reason it's cheaper to do that, but two, then they don't go rancid as quickly, which I appreciate. Then peanut butter is another staple. And again, it's cheap. It's got a good balance of, the different amino acids, which is helpful, and it tastes good. So, when you really need, exactly. And then, I would say greens, any greens, all types of greens. I love every green I've ever encountered, but you can do everything with them. You can make a salad out of them, or saute them, or make them into a stew. Greens are amazing and very nutrient dense. People should just eat tons of greens all the time.
Yeah. So where would you say the majority of your fats are coming from on a consistent basis?
Probably hemp seeds, coconut yogurt, really. I make my own coconut yogurt out of coconut milk. but that, and then peanut butter. That's so embarrassing. It's peanut butter.
Your favorite.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So it's not too much stuff.
Yeah. I tend to, I guess it's not that I eat like few items. It's just that I try to, for instance, my variation comes from like what type of berry am I putting in these smoothies, or what type of greens am I eating in these salads. And in the summer, I eat a large variety of vegetables, obviously, because that's what's in season. And now it's like cabbage and potatoes and kohlrabi. So you're really limited. But, but I tend to, I'm apparently allergic to almonds, which I didn't realize when I started this. So I eat very few types of nuts, and yeah, I guess I do have a pretty limited diet, but in a weirdly broad scope, if that makes sense.
Right. You can mix and match and do a variety of things with spices because you're still using spices.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you know, like when people talk about variety in food, I honestly think that's part of the problem to why we have these food addictions, is because, you know, food is just so readily available, you know, on demand, all these little gourmet shops and restaurants and stuff. So our palates have been so excited that we need more and more and more. And having a simple diet is completely fine, and as long as the body is getting variety, and when you have actual whole foods in there, you're getting a whole array of, you know, phytochemicals and nutrients and stuff that our body actually can utilize. So, granted, it's whole food, plant based. You know, in my opinion, that's like the best way. Actually, not just my opinion, scientific.
I was gonna say, I think it's a lot of it.
Yeah. So it's, you know, best for overall health. You know.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much best for everything at this point. We're discovering like overall health. It's best for our planet at this point in time. It's best
which is important. Yeah. The planet is important.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we
like
that.
Come after us. Yeah. So what's one? No, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I totally agree. I think it, like, as long as you're eating, again, plants of different colors, but eat a ton of different plants and whole foods, you're doing great.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I even sent this to you, but I wanted to ask you, what's one tip you have for saving time with meal prep? Because I get that question a lot.
Yeah. So, I tend to try to cook like a stew basically every week. I just make myself a stew, and then like that's what I'm doing right now. And then I have lunches or dinners or whatever that is for like 5 days at my disposal. And I think that's a huge time saver. And it helps with that, as you said, that like decision fatigue at night when you're like, oh, I don't want to make anything for dinner, but you also don't want to just put a frozen pizza in the oven.
Right. So you're eating basically the same thing every day?
So the stew would be the same every day, but then like whether that's my lunch or my dinner, all the other meals are pretty different. Cause I'm not that person. Yeah, I'm not that person who can eat the same thing every day. I get super bored. But I would say within the same like 20 meals, I'll cycle through those.
Okay. So, and you offer meal plans. So I think that's like the biggest thing for people who want to get started doing Meat Free Keto, right? the plant-based way to do keto. Start with a meal plan, because someone's already gone through the trouble of trying to figure it out. And
it's plugged into Chronometer. It's all like 100% on your micros and macros.
Yeah. So let me ask you, if they follow the meal plans, right? And the link is going to be in the description to this video. Do they even need to track if they're in ketosis? Is that something that's individual, or absolutely they'll hit ketosis doing this?
So ketosis, as you mentioned, it is pretty individual. And for people who have extensive metabolic damage, or who might be type 2 diabetic or have hypoglycemia, it might take fewer carbs to get you in ketosis. I think right now my plans all hover around 30 grams of net carbs, which allows for like an absurd amount of vegetables. It's amazing. But I do put notes in the plans on kind of reducing that. But for the most part, I think I want to say 80% of people should be able to achieve ketosis utilizing the very basic plan, no modifications, just eat the way they are and then switch to this.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much for creating this resource, because you ventured a path not yet ventured, and you made it easier for people who are interested to just get started. They can just dive right in instead of trying to figure it out for themselves. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. That was basically my goal. I just want to help people in whatever way.
That's awesome. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you feel I should have? Any closing notes or anything you want to share with the people who are keto curious?
Yeah, sure. Well, you covered all the bases, I think, but if I were to add anything, it would just be kind of, we touched on this earlier. You don't have to listen to all the dogma that's out there, and you don't have to listen to people telling you, oh, you have to eat these foods. You can't have fruit. You can't eat this. You have to stick to this many carbs. It's more of it's literally a state of being when your body is in ketosis, and however you get there is kind of up to you. So just do what feels good for your body, and then you'll be golden.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you for having me. I've loved this.
Yes.